Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Hey there.
Today we're unpacking a moment that sparked quite a bit of conversation online recently. It involves a photo shared by Luis Elizondo.
Right, a name most people following UAP discussions will definitely recognize. A former DoD guy.
Exactly. And we want to sort of dig into what happened with this image, the reactions, and maybe what it tells us about, the whole UAP discussion landscape right now.
That's good. Because it definitely stirred things up.
It did. So the image itself,
Yeah.
it was presented as a photo taken by a commercial airline pilot back in 2021.
Okay.
And it supposedly showed this massive silver disc-shaped object. The estimates were, 600 to 1,000 feet across.
That's huge. And the location was specific too, right?
Yeah, near the Four Corners area where New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, Colorado all meet. Altitude around 21,000 feet.
Okay. And this was shared by the UAP Disclosure Fund on X, formerly Twitter.
That's right. And from there, it took off.
A claim like that, with a visual attached, it's bound to get attention, especially linked to someone like Elizondo.
Absolutely. It went viral pretty fast, but then the conversation took a bit of a turn. Almost immediately, really.
Yeah, the online communities, the internet sleuths, they jumped on it.
They really did. Started looking very, very closely at the photo itself.
And what's fascinating is just how quickly people can analyze these things now. They started pointing out that it looked, familiar.
Familiar in what way?
Well, the consensus that seemed to form pretty rapidly was that it looked an awful lot like crop circles.
Ah, right. Like the agricultural patterns you see from the air.
Exactly. Which, are not uncommon, especially in certain farming areas. Even desert-like regions sometimes use center pivot irrigation.
Yeah.
The visual match seemed pretty strong to a lot of people.
Strong enough that people weren't shy about saying so. We saw one comment, pretty direct, saying something like, "This is clearly a crop circle, not a UAP."
Oof, blunt.
Yeah. And they added, "Mislabeling known terrestrial phenomena erodes public trust and undermines legitimate disclosure efforts. Please correct this mistake. Your reputation is on the line."
Wow. That really hinted a core issue, doesn't it? The whole trust and credibility factor in UAP discussions. Getting it wrong, especially publicly, can have real consequences for the movement, or at least for the individuals involved.
For sure. And there was another user who chimed in, sounding a bit incredulous, like, "Are you guys serious? Have you never flown in a plane before? These agricultural circles are extremely common."
Right, suggesting it should have been obvious, at least to anyone familiar with flying over those kinds of landscapes.
Which kind of raises questions about the vetting process before something like this gets shared, especially by prominent figures.
Definitely. So, with all this pushback happening online, how did Elizondo himself respond?
Well, he did issue a statement afterwards. He addressed the photo and the reaction.
And did he concede the point about the crop circles?
He did, essentially. He acknowledged that he likely, quote, got it wrong about what the photo actually showed. He seemed to accept it was probably crop circles.
So he admitted the misidentification.
Yes, but interestingly, he didn't apologize for sharing it. His statement took a different tack.
Oh, what was his reasoning then?
He framed it differently. He said his main reason for sharing the photo wasn't really to say, "Look, an alien spaceship," but more to illustrate a point he's been making for a while.
Which is?
The need for a proper centralized reporting system for civilian and commercial pilots. A formal channel where they can submit reports of things they see that seem anomalous without stigma.
Ah, okay. So shifting the focus from the object itself to the process or lack thereof.
Exactly. His quote was, "The purpose of me showing the photo was to illustrate the need for civilian and commercial pilots to have a central reporting mechanism to report potential anomalous sightings."
So using it as a case study almost. Even if this one turned out mundane, the next one might not be, and pilots need a place to report it for analysis.
That seems to be the argument. He added that even if sightings end up being something conventional, a system is needed to gather that data and analyze it properly.
It's a defense of his actions based on intention, rather than the accuracy of this specific post.
Right. And he explicitly said, "As you know, I am always first to admit mistakes, but this is not one of those times." Which is a bold statement, given he also admitted he got the photo's identification wrong.
It is a bit contradictory, isn't it? Admitting the photo wasn't what he thought, but saying sharing it wasn't a mistake because of the intent behind sharing it.
Yeah. He also mentioned the photo was just provided to him by a pilot right before he shared it, suggesting maybe there wasn't much time for deep vetting.
That context is maybe helpful, But still, the impact was what it was.
And we should probably remember this isn't, the first time Elizondo's claims have come under the microscope.
That's true. The Pentagon has pushed back on some of his previous statements about potential non-human intelligence. So there's a history there that colors how people might see this latest incident.
Right. And it inevitably brings up those discussions you see online about trust and who their reliable voices are. Some folks already had questions, and this probably didn't help.
Yeah, that idea of controlled opposition gets thrown around in some circles. While we're not taking a stance on that, you can see how an incident like this, a clear misstep, could definitely fuel that kind of skepticism for people already inclined to feel that way.
It damages credibility, potentially, or at least raises more questions.
It certainly highlights the tightrope walk involved in this field. Balancing pushing for disclosure with maintaining rigorous standards for evidence. That user quote about eroding public trust seems pretty relevant here.
Absolutely. The whole episode just underscores how dynamic and, frankly, messy the online UAP space can be. Things spread like wildfire, but the fact-checking, well, sometimes it lags behind, or it comes from the crowd itself.
And you see the power of that crowdsourced analysis here. People recognize those patterns very quickly. It shows how visual information gets scrutinized now.
Now, thinking broader, the outline mentioned comparing this coverage to other sources, like maybe what you'd find on a site like Free Cosmos News. We don't have specific articles from there for this incident, but we can think generally.
Right. Different news outlets or platforms might frame this very differently. Some would likely focus heavily on the debunking angle. Elizondo shares photo. Internet proves its crop circles. End of story.
Others might lean more into Elizondo's explanation, focusing on his call for a pilot reporting system, perhaps seeing that as the more significant part of his statement.
And still others might connect it to the wider themes. The ongoing push for UAP transparency, the challenges of misinformation in the digital age, or maybe even that controlled opposition narrative we mentioned.
It really drives home the point that, for you listening, it's always a good idea to look at multiple sources, see how different places are covering the same event to get a fuller picture.
Absolutely. You get different perspectives, different angles highlighted. It helps build a more nuanced understanding instead of just getting one take.
So let's try and summarize the key takeaways from this deep dive. We had a pretty dramatic photo shared by a major figure in UAP circles,
which was then rapidly identified by online communities as very likely being, ordinary crop circles.
Leading to debates about credibility and trust. Then Elizondo's response came,
where he admitted the likely misidentification, but pivoted to defend his intention, advocating for that pilot reporting system.
And it all serves as a kind of case study, really, for the challenges of navigating UAP information online today. The speed, the scrutiny, the potential for missteps, and the impact that can have.
It really does. Which leads us to maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on.
Yeah.
In this world where information and misinformation travels instantly across the globe, how do we strike that balance? How do we keep the excitement and curiosity about potential discoveries, especially with something like UAPs, while also maintaining that crucial critical thinking?
And what's the responsibility there for individuals sharing information, especially those with the platform, versus the responsibility of us as consumers of that information?
Exactly. How do we foster a conversation that's both open to possibilities, but also grounded in careful evaluation, especially for topics this complex and, let's face it, often controversial?
Something to definitely think about.